second session of the chapter. The first session we discussed about algae and three classes of algae. So in this session, let's start with bryophyta or bryophytes. This bryophyte includes various mosses and liverworts, and they are usually found in damp, humid, and shaded areas. These bryophytes are also called as amphibians of plant kingdom because they grow on the land, but again they must grow very close to the water bodies because sexual reproduction takes place only in the medium of water. That is why they are called as amphibians of plant kingdom. Now talking about the plant body, compared to Thallophyta, these bodies are more differentiated. The plant body can be prostrate or it can be erect like this, or it can be prostrate. Here this is prostrate, here flattened, and these are erect. Okay, and these plant bodies, they attach to substratum. They attach to substratum by unicellular or multicellular root-like structure called as rhizoids. And the thing is, here they do not have true root, stems, or leaf, but they may possess a structure which is root-like called as rhizoid. Okay, and then they have a leaf-like and stem-like structures. The plant body is haploid, and they produce gamete, so called as the main plant body is gametophyte. And talking about the sex organs are multicellular. Sex organ in the case of male is called as antheridium, and sex organ in the female is called as archegonium. And here it is a flask shape, and this contains a single egg here, and these after undergoing sexual reproduction, these produce a multicellular body called as sporophyte. So this part, okay, this is an example of a moss here. This part is gametophyte, and here this is a sporophyte body, and here in this case the sporophyte is dependent on the gametophyte. Sporophytes are diploid. The chromosome content are in two sets, and gametophytes are haploid. The chromosome are only of one set. Okay, so these bryophytes, we have liverworts and mosses. So let us talk about liverwort first. Liverworts usually grow in moist, shaded habitats such as bank of streams, marshy ground, damp soil, bark of tree, and deep in the wood. And talking about the plant body are thalloid. For example, Marchantia. This thallus body is dorsi-ventrally flattened. They are flattened, okay, that is flat structure, that is dorsi-ventrally flattened, and they are placed very closely to the substratum. Okay, so the thallus body is dorsi-ventrally flattened. Okay, so example here is Marchantia. So this Marchantia, the male and female body are separate. They also have a leafy member, and this leafy member have a leaf-like appendage, and they are in the arranged in rows of two here. These are the leafy member of the liverwort. Talking about the mode of reproduction, it takes place by asexual means, that is fragmentation of the plant body. When the plant body breaks, each part can grow into full thallus and becoming a complete body, or it can also take place by a special structure called as gemma singular and gemma plural. Okay, so these gemma are nothing but, here you can see, this is an example of Marchantia, and this is a gemma cup. Okay, a cup is a receptacle in which gemma are present. Okay, so these gemma, these are nothing but these are green multicellular asexual bud. Okay, and this, when it gets detached from the parent body, it will grow into an individual new thallus. Okay, so the thallus can be homothallic or heterothallic, and the sporophyte body in them is differentiated into foot, seta, and capsule. Here, foot, seta, and capsule. So here, let us just look at the life cycle of one of the example of liverwort, that is Marchantia. In the case of Marchantia, the male sex organ and female sex organ are present on different thallus, different body. So we have a male thallus here, female thallus here. Male thallus will bear the male sex organ called as antheridophore here, antheridium, and female have a archegonium present on the stalk called as archegoniophore. Okay, so looking at the male antheridophore, okay, this is the stalk antheridophore, and inside this there is the antheridium, and antheridium, okay, contains a flagellated male gamete called as sperm here, and in the case of female thallus, it contains archegonia. Okay, so we have archegonia here. It is again a flask shape, and each archegonia contain a single egg here. Okay, so these male gametes are released into the water body, and these gametes are carried away by the water body and finally reaches the neck or this one mouth of the female archegonium. Okay, and then through this it enters into the archegonium and fertilization takes place, and this fertilization leads to formation of zygote. Now this zygote will undergo further mitotic division and produce a sporophyte, multicellular structure called as sporophyte here. Now here the sporophyte is not so well developed as in the case of mosses, and here the sporophyte body has a capsule, seta and foot. So these are present on the Markensia body, that is, as discussed, the Markensia body, the thallus is gametophyte because they produce gamete and they are haploid in nature. So the production of gamete, this cell should undergo mitosis to give rise to male gamete and female gamete, and when they both fuse, then we get a diploid, and this diploid structure undergo multiple cellular division to give rise to a multicellular structure called as sporophyte, and this sporophyte is differentiated into three important parts, that is capsule, seta and foot. So the foot part is attached to the sporophyte, and in this sporophyte, especially in the capsule region, many of the cells undergo meiosis. So meiosis is a reductional division. So if it is diploid, here it is diploid. So meiosis will lead to formation of haploid spores. So it gives rise to haploid spores, and each spore will germinate to produce an individual thallus. So this is the sexual cycle in the case of liverwort. Okay, so liverwort undergoes reproduction through sexual means as well as asexual means, that is by fragmentation. If you cut a part of it here, each will grow into an individual plant, or by a specialized structure called as gemma. Okay, so here they have also shown, we have also shown here. Okay, so on the body there are gemma cup, and gemma cup contain gemma. Gemma are nothing but these are the buds, and when they detach from the plant body, they go into a new individual organism. Okay, that is plant. Now let's talk about the second form of bryophyte, that is mosses. In the case of mosses, again, the predominant phase is gametophyte, and this gametophyte are haploid. The first stage is protonema stage. Okay, so talking about this protonema stage here. So this is a protonema stage here. So this protonema stage is nothing but this is a filamentous structure, and this primary protonema, and then again it branches to form secondary protonema. Okay, and then after this filamentous stage, that is protonema stage, then we have a leafy stage. Okay, so we have a leafy stage. So the first stage is protonema stage, which directly develop into spores, and it is green, creeping, branch and frequently filamentous, as we have seen here. Okay, green, filamentous and branch here. And the second stage is leafy, and which is developed from secondary protonema as a lateral bud. And looking at the structure, we have, okay, so here we have a leaf-like structure, and then stem-like structure, and then this rhizoids. It has to hold onto the substratum, and each plant body bears male gamete and female gamete. Okay, so they are attached to soil through multicellular and branch rhizoids, and they bear sex organ, and then mode of reproduction, it reproduce through fragmentation as well as budding. So fragmentation of protonema, okay, it gives rise to a new individual moss, and then there's a budding in the secondary protonema. And if you talk about sexual reproduction, sex organ antheridia and archegonia are present here. So here This is protonema, green pupae stage, and then this is leafy stage. On the leafy stage, there are male gametophyte and female gametophyte. Male gametophyte produce male gamete, female gametophyte produce female gametes, and they both fuse to form a zygote, and this zygote will develop into sporophyte. And the sporophyte is diploid here, and this sporophyte, okay, the structure is more elaborate as compared to liverwort. The sporophyte is dependent on gametophyte. Gametophyte are green in color. They can do photosynthesis. They are autotrophic. They are independent. But sporophyte is dependent on gametophyte. These sporophyte are non-green structure. So it has body part like capsule and then seta and foot here. Okay, and in the capsule, some of the cells undergo meiosis, and this meiosis results in the formation of spores. So diploid cell undergoing meiosis to produce haploid spores, and haploid spores germinate to produce haploid gametophyte. Okay, so this is the life cycle in the case of moss. Now talking about the economic importance of these bryophytes. Okay, some of the mosses are found to be used as a food for various mammals, birds, and animals. And some of these species, that is sphagnum, it provides a peat which is used as a fuel, and it is also used in a packing material because of their ability to hold water. And then these mosses also are the pioneer species in the ecological succession. So they were one of the first to colonize a rock. Okay, so they have a major role in ecological succession. And since they form a mat on the soil surface, they can absorb the water, and thus it will reduce the impact of rainwater and rainwater falling on it, and also prevent soil erosion. So if you look at some of the examples here, you can see dorsiventrally flattened structure, that is flat structure, Rixia and Markensia, and we also have a leafy structure called Sphagnum, Polytrichum, and Funaria also. Okay, so this is about bryophyte. Okay, so bryophytes are also called as amphibian of plant kingdom, even though they grow on land, but they must be near the moist area so that sexual reproduction takes place. Okay, so they were considered to be the first plants to invade the land. Next. Now the next division is pteridophytes. Unlike that of bryophyte, the main plant body in pteridophytes are sporophytes. So now you can see the shift of the plant body from gametophyte, which is haploid, towards the sporophyte, which is diploid. Gametophyte produce gametes. Sporophyte produce spores. Okay, so the pteridophyte are the true first land plant. They are the true first land plant because they have well differentiated vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem. But they must grow in a they are usually found, we can say they are usually found in cool, damp, and shady place. But there's a certain other group which are also found in a sandy soil condition. And talking about the body part, so especially that of the leaves, so this is a well differentiated body. They have a root, stem, and leaf here, and the leaves are of two types: microphyll and macrophyll. Micro, small leaves, as in the case of Selaginella, and macrophylls are the larger size leaf, as in the case of ferns. So if you look at again the leaves, these leaves will bear the spores. The plant body is sporophyte. Main plant body is sporophyte. That means they bear the spores. And where are the spores found? The spores are found on the sporophyll. So sporophylls are nothing but these are the extended leaf-like appendage. So this sporophyll will have a group of sporangia called as sori, and each sori has a number of sporangia, and each sporangia will produce number of spores by undergoing meiosis, because the plant body is diploid. Sporophyte is diploid, and to produce a haploid spore, it must undergo meiosis. So these spores are produced on the sporophylls. Here in this case, okay, you can see on the leaf extended, and sometimes they form a compact structure of the sporophyll. Okay, the sporophyll become compact, they are tightly packed and form a structure called as strobili. Here in the case of Selaginella, you find strobili. Okay, so here the sporophyll, the sporophyte, the plant body bears sporangia. Where are these sporangia present? They are present on the sporophyll. Okay, and this sporophyll in some case may become compact and form a distinct structure called as strobili or cone. For example, in Selaginella and Equisetum. Okay, so in this sporangia, okay, there is a meiosis taking place which produce which produce haploid spores, and these spores will germinate. The spores will germinate here. Okay, so we'll just look at the life cycle of this fern and then try to understand its body part and also the mode of reproduction. So here the plant body is sporophyte, which is 2n, okay, that is diploid, and on each leaf there are so many sporangium, okay, and the group of all sporangium together called as sorus. Okay, these sporangium, okay, there are spore mother cell which undergoes meiosis to produce spores, and these spores will germinate to give rise to gametophyte, and this gametophyte, okay, is a green independent structure. Here in the case of fern, or you can say in the case of pteridophyte, gametophyte is also an independent structure, sporophyte is also an independent structure, but gametophyte, the body is more simpler. Okay, in the case of bryophyte, sporophyte is simpler as compared to gametophyte. Sporophyte is dependent on gametophyte. But in the case of ferns, sporophyte and gametophyte both are independent. Both are green. Both are photosynthetic. So they both are independent. Okay. So these spores germinate to form a structure called as prothallus. Okay. And this prothallus, okay, or we can say gametophyte, it produces gametes. Okay. Female gametes and male gametes, female gametes, okay, in antheridium, sex organ is antheridium, female sex organ is archegonium, and the male gamete produces sperms here, female are called egg here, okay, and then these male gametes are released into the water and then it reaches the egg, leading to fertilization. Since for the fertilization it needs water, the distribution of such a group of pteridophyte is limited. Okay, so this fertilization leading to formation of zygote, and zygote is diploid. Okay, zygote is diploid. It undergo a number of mitotic division to give rise to new sporophyte body, and then the adult one here mature sporophyte, and thus the cycle continues. Now this is example of fern. This is example of Selaginella. Now in Selaginella again same here. This is a sporophyte body, and then they have a special structure which is a compact sporophyll forming a strobilus, and in the strobilus there are so many sporophyll, and then they contain the spores here. They undergo meiosis to produce spore. Okay, and this spore will become gametophyte, and gametophyte produce gamete, fertilize, and here you can see the male gametes are motile. Okay, so fertilization leads to zygote formation. Zygote again it will develop into sporophyte and thus become a mature sporophyte, and the cycle continues like this. Now okay, so this is about the life cycle of pteridophyte, and if you look at some more examples, you can have Selaginella, Icetus, Marsilia, Salvinia, Azolla, okay, and so on here. So these are some examples of pteridophytes. And now here you must have observed. In the case of this example, you find the spores here. All the spores are of similar kind. The spores are of similar kind, but here you can see the spores produced are okay labeled as microspore, smaller in size, megaspore, larger in size. Okay, so in the case of pteridophyte, the members of pteridophyte, we can have one which produce a similar kind of spores and the one which produce, okay, dissimilar or the two different kind of spores. So they are termed homosporous. So homosporous are the one which produce similar kind of spores, for example, Dryopteris, and heterosporous are the one which produce two different kind of spores, that is microspore and macrospore, as in the case of Selaginella. Microspore will develop into male gametophyte, macrospore will develop into female gametophyte. Okay, now which one do you think is more advanced? Of course, it is the heterosporous. Okay, now this development of this zygote. So after fission of gamete, development, okay, zygote takes place, and this zygote development takes place in the body of the female here. Okay, so which is a precursor to the seed habit. Okay, which is precursor to the seed habit. So in the case of pteridophyte, even though they are true land plant, they do not produce seed. Okay, so when we talk about the seed formation, okay, so this particular group of pteridophyte, this shows the feature which is precursor to the seed habit, which is found in the gymnosperms and angiosperm. So the pteridophytes are classified into four classes like Psilopsida, example Psilotum, Lycopsida, example Selaginella, Spinopsida, example Equisetum, and Pteropsida, example Dryopteris. Okay, so that's all for today's class. So in this class, we talked about bryophytes and pteridophytes. And in the first video, we talked about Thallophyta. Okay, so Thallophyta, yes. Now we can see that there is evolution of these plant group. Okay, from aquatic habitat towards the terrestrial habitat, and from the dominant gametophyte state or gametophytic plant body towards independent sporophytic plant body, and then from the spore producing body until here it is a precursor of seed habit, so it will move to spore producing body towards the seed producing body. Okay, so thank you. So the remaining two division, that is gymnosperms and angiosperms, will be discussed in the next session.